A woman drowning in debt, a restaurant where silence spoke louder than words, and one moment of kindness that would cost her everything. Have you ever helped someone, only to realize too late that they were never the victim? The Azure Room didn't just serve meals. It served power, wrapped in imported linens and china that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The kind of establishment where waiting lists stretched for months, where the staff moved with choreographed precision, and where certain booths remained perpetually reserved for men who never smiled. Director Park entered through the private entrance that Tuesday night, and something shifted in the atmosphere. Not obviously, nothing that would alarm the other diners, but like the air before lightning strikes. He looked perhaps 75, silver hair perfectly groomed, wearing a charcoal suit that hung slightly loose on his diminishing frame. His hands shook as he navigated to his usual corner table. He didn't look dangerous. That was the first mistake people made. The hostess guided him with practiced reverence, the kind born from understanding rather than instruction. Two suited men positioned themselves near the bar, their postures rigid, their gazes constantly scanning. Director Park settled into the booth and reached for his water glass. Then everything changed. The glass slipped. Water cascaded across expensive fabric, spreading dark stains across pristine white. His hand jerked violently, trembling worse, and something flashed across his features. Not shame. Terror. The restaurant pretended nothing happened. Conversations maintained their volume. Silverware continued its delicate symphony. But everyone watched. They always did. A young server approached with professional concern. "Sir, please allow me to." The director's lips moved. Korean words tumbled out, rushed and desperate, his voice cracking. The server froze, smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand." More Korean, faster now, almost frantic. The director's fingers clutched his napkin, pressing it against the stain, but his movements were uncoordinated, wrong. His breathing quickened. The manager appeared, diplomatic smile firmly in place. "Sir, if you'll permit us to assist you two," he gestured subtly toward the exit. The implication clear. The confused elderly patron had worn out his welcome. Security materialized. A mountain of a man, hand already extending toward the director's shoulder. That's when the director went completely rigid. His eyes widened, pupils dilating to black pools. His entire body locked into absolute stillness, the kind that comes from trauma, from survival instincts carved into bone. The security guard's fingers were inches away. "Stop. Don't touch him." Every head turned. Maya stood near the service station, one hand gripping her order tablet, the other already reaching for a fresh napkin. 26 years old, natural hair pulled into a professional bun, her dark skin glowing under the warm lighting. She'd worked at the Azure Room for 7 months, kept her head down, never caused problems, never inserted herself into situations beyond her station. Until now. She moved between the guard and the director before anyone could intervene, her body language non-threatening but absolute. She knelt slightly, bringing herself to eye level with the trembling man. Then she did something that should have been impossible. She bowed. Not a casual nod, but a full, respectful 90-degree bow, the kind that required practice to execute naturally. Then she spoke, her voice gentle, her Korean accented but clear. "Harabiaji, shadows pass. Let me help you find peace." The restaurant might as well have stopped existing. The director's eyes locked onto her face. His mouth opened, but no sound emerged. Then, impossibly, tears filled his eyes. He reached out with shaking hands, not for the napkin she offered, but for her wrist, gripping it with desperate intensity. "Yadiok," he whispered. "How do you know those words?" Maya's pulse hammered, but she kept her voice steady. She gently extracted the soaked napkin from his grip and replaced it with a clean one, guiding his hand to press it against the stain. "Gwenchineo. I'm here. Everything's okay." The manager stood paralyzed, his composure shattered. The guard had retreated several steps. The two suited men by the entrance had gone taut as wire, hands moving inside their jackets. That's when the main doors opened. The temperature dropped. Park Ji-hoon didn't enter rooms. He consumed them. 38 years old, 6'1" of controlled menace wrapped in a black suit that cost more than Maya's yearly salary. His dark hair was swept back with precision, his features sharp and unforgiving, and his eyes were the kind of black that absorbed light rather than reflected it. Those eyes found his father first, then found the black woman kneeling beside him, holding his hand. The world contracted to that single moment. Ji-hoon's expression didn't change. Somehow that was worse than rage. He crossed the restaurant in long, predatory strides. His bodyguards flanked him, but he didn't need them. The threat was inherent, in the way survival instincts screamed warnings when he approached. He stopped 3 feet from the table, looked at his father's tear-stained face, looked at the ruined shirt, looked at Maya. "Who are you?" His English was flawless, his accent barely detectable, but the question landed like a blade. Maya stood slowly, forcing herself to meet those obsidian eyes. "Maya Johnson. I'm a server here. My father was speaking Korean to strangers. I was helping him." "Were you?" He stepped closer and Maya could smell expensive cologne mixed with something darker. Gunpowder, maybe. Or her own fear. "My father suffers from dementia. People who exploit that confusion tend to have unfortunate accidents." The director's grip tightened on Maya's wrist. He spoke rapidly in Korean, his voice stronger now, almost childlike in its urgency. Ji-hoon's eyes flickered with something Maya couldn't identify. Surprise, perhaps. Or suspicion. He responded in Korean, his tone sharp. The director shook his head violently, pulling Maya closer, speaking faster. "He says he won't leave without you." Ji-hoon's voice was flat, stating a problem that required solving. "He says you spoke the family words. That you're his light bearer." A pause waited with threat. "Where did you learn that phrase?" Maya's throat went dry. "My ex-boyfriend taught me Korean. I was trying to calm your father down. He taught me a saying about shadows and peace. I remembered it. Your ex-boyfriend." Ji-hoon pulled out his phone, typed with sharp, efficient movements. "Name?" "I don't see how that's relevant." "Name." "Now." "Marcus. Marcus Park. But he died 4 years ago, so I don't see." Ji-hoon's fingers stopped moving. His face, already unreadable, became carved stone. The silence stretched until Maya heard her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. When he spoke again, his voice was soft. Deadly soft. "Marcus Park was my brother. He disappeared from the family 8 years ago. We were told he overdosed in Chicago." The restaurant tilted. Ji-hoon leaned down and Maya could see her own reflection in those black eyes. "You're telling me you knew him? That he taught you our family's private words?" "I didn't know it was private. We dated for 8 months. He taught me Korean phrases because I wanted to learn. He died and I kept studying because I promised him I would. That's all." Ji-hoon studied her like she was an equation that didn't balance. Then he looked at his father, who had stopped crying but was clutching Maya's hand like a lifeline. "How much?" Ji-hoon asked. "I'm sorry. How much money will it take for you to come with us and care for my father until he stabilizes?" The manager materialized at Maya's elbow, his face pale. "Mr. Park, I assure you, our staff is not. I'm not asking her employer. I'm asking her." Ji-hoon pulled out his wallet, extracted a black credit card. "Name your price." Maya should have refused. Should have walked away from the trembling old man and his terrifying son. Should have returned to her section, her tables, her normal life of polite smiles and decent tips. But she looked at Director Park's face, at the desperate hope in his ancient eyes, and something inside her broke. She thought about Marcus, who died alone in a city that didn't care. About promises made to people who never came home. "I have student loans," she heard herself say. "And my grandmother's medical bills. 90,000 total." Ji-hoon didn't blink. "Done. But not 90. 600,000. The room spun. "What?" "You calmed the dragon of Seoul. You spoke words you shouldn't know. You're either the best con artist I've ever met or you're telling the truth." His smile was razor-thin. "Either way, you're too valuable to leave in a restaurant. Consider your debts purchased." He turned to the manager. "Bill her final wages to this card. She no longer works here." "Sir, you can't just." "I can." "I did. Ji-hoon finally looked away from Maya and the manager physically flinched. Unless you'd like to discuss it further? The manager stepped back. No, sir. No discussion necessary. Maya's head spun. I need time to think. No. Ji-hoon gestured to one of his men who approached with a tablet. A contract appeared on screen, dense with legal text. Think while you read. Sign here. You'll live in our family home. Care for my father. And in return, every debt you have disappears. Refuse, and you walk out that door right now with nothing. He leaned close enough that she could feel the heat of him, could see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow. But my father won't release your hand. And when I have to forcibly remove you, he'll spiral. So really, Miss Johnson, the question is, how much is your conscience worth? It was blackmail dressed as opportunity. A cage painted gold. Maya looked at the contract, at the director who watched her with desperate ancient eyes, at her own reflection in the tablet's dark screen. She signed. Ji-hoon's smile was victorious and empty. Welcome to the family, Miss Johnson. He snapped his fingers and one of the bodyguards produced a sleek black coat, draping it over her shoulders. The car is waiting. Before we continue, if you're loving this twisted tale of danger and dark romance, make sure you're subscribed to Alina Korean Stories. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Your support helps me bring you more stories like this. Now, let's dive back in. The ride to the Park estate was a study in contrasts. Maya's cramped apartment could have fit inside the SUV's back seat with room to spare. The leather was buttersoft, the temperature perfectly regulated, and the windows were so dark she couldn't see out. A rolling isolation chamber. Director Park sat beside her, his hand still clutching hers with surprising strength for someone supposedly fragile. He murmured in Korean, fragments of sentences that sounded like prayers or confessions. Maya caught words she recognized: sun, shadow, peace, forgiveness, but couldn't piece them into coherence. Ji-hoon sat across from them, silent, watching. Always watching. His gaze felt like a physical weight on her skin, and she found herself hyper-aware of everything. The way her uniform shirt pulled across her shoulders, the rapid pulse at her throat, the silver chain hidden beneath her collar. She touched it through the fabric, a nervous habit. Ji-hoon noticed. Of course he noticed. What's that? A necklace. It was a gift from Marcus. Not a question. A statement of fact that landed like a punch. Yes. Show me. Maya's hand tightened protectively over her chest. It's personal. Nothing is personal anymore, Miss Johnson. You signed that away when you took my check. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and the space between them evaporated. Show me, or I'll take it. She believed him. Slowly, she drew the chain out from beneath her collar. The pendant was small, silver, tarnished with age, engraved with Korean characters she'd never been able to translate. Marcus had always deflected when she asked what they meant. Ji-hoon's expression shuddered completely. He reached out and Maya flinched, but he only lifted the pendant with surprising gentleness, turning it to catch the dim interior light. His jaw worked like he was chewing glass. Where did you get this? I told you. Marcus gave it to me. This pendant belonged to my grandmother. It was buried with my brother. His eyes lifted to hers, void black, empty of everything except cold fury. So either you're a grave robber, or my brother gave you our family's most sacred heirloom before he died. He released the pendant, and it fell against her skin like ice. Which means he trusted you. Loved you, maybe? His voice dropped to something barely audible. That makes you either very dangerous or very useful. I haven't decided which. He leaned in close, his voice barely a breath. Hide it under your shirt. If my father sees that silver, he'll remember things better left forgotten. Keep it hidden, Maya. Always. The estate was a fortress disguised as luxury. 40 stories of steel and glass overlooking Seoul. Every window reinforced, every entrance monitored. Maya counted 8 security checkpoints before they reached the penthouse level, each guard armed, each one nodding with military precision as Ji-hoon passed. The penthouse itself was a study in minimalism and menace. White marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering city, and furniture that looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was sharp angles and cold surfaces. Nothing soft. Nothing warm. Ji-hoon led her down a hallway that seemed to stretch forever, their footsteps echoing. He stopped at a door, withdrew a key card, and gestured her inside. Your room. It was larger than her entire apartment. King bed with white silk sheets. A bathroom with marble and gold fixtures. A walk-in closet already filled with clothes in her exact size. A cage, but a gilded one. The clothes are for you, Ji-hoon said from the doorway. Tomorrow morning, someone will brief you on my father's routine. You'll accompany him to meals, to his medical appointments, to wherever he needs to go. You will not leave this building without my permission. You will not contact anyone from your previous life. You will not speak to the other staff about family business. He paused and something almost like regret crossed his face. And you will not try to escape. Why not? He pulled the door closed and she heard the lock engage from the outside. His voice came through the wood, muffled but clear. Because I'm not ready to decide what to do with you yet. Maya stood alone in her beautiful prison, the check still clutched in her hand, and wondered if Marcus had felt this same trapped, suffocating fear before he died. Morning came with a soft knock. Maya jolted awake, disoriented by silk sheets and the absence of familiar sounds. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back, and with it the weight of her new reality. The knock came again. Miss Johnson, I'm here to help you prepare for the day. A woman stood in the doorway, mid-50s, Korean, her face professionally neutral. She introduced herself as Mrs. Kim, the estate manager, and proceeded to explain the household rules with clinical efficiency. The estate doctor would visit within the hour for mandatory health screening and blood work. Standard protocol for all new residents. Do not refuse him. Breakfast at 7. The director's medication schedule. Appropriate attire for different occasions. The rooms that were off-limits, which turned out to be most of them. Maya absorbed it all while her mind spun. The door was locked last night. Mrs. Kim's expression didn't flicker. For your safety, Miss Johnson. The estate has many security protocols. Protocols that lock me in. Protocols that keep dangers out. Mrs. Kim's gaze sharpened. Mr. Park has many enemies. You are under his protection now. That means following his rules. Director Park was waiting in the breakfast room, seated at a table that could have hosted 30, but held only 2 place settings. He looked different in the morning light, smaller, frilier, the tremor in his hands more pronounced. When he saw Maya, his face transformed with childlike joy. Nay, AI, he murmured. My child. Maya slipped into the role like a costume. She bowed, spoke gentle Korean, helped him with his tea. He told her rambling stories about Seoul, about his childhood, about sons who disappointed him and sons who left. His words wandered, circling back on themselves, and anyone listening would hear only the confusion of dementia. But Maya watched his eyes. And his eyes were calculating, sharp, tracking every movement she made with predatory focus. Later, when she helped him to his room for his afternoon rest, he gripped her wrist with sudden vicious strength. The tremor vanished. You have his eyes, he said in perfect, unaccented English. My youngest son's eyes. Kind eyes. Lying eyes. Then the confusion returned like a curtain falling, and he was shuffling and weak again, calling for his blanket. Maya's blood ran cold. That night, unable to sleep, she explored the boundaries of her cage. The penthouse was a labyrinth of hallways and locked doors, but eventually she found the library. 2 stories of books, leather chairs, and a fireplace that looked like it had never been used. She was reaching for a book when a voice cut through the silence. Can't sleep. She spun. Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, jacket gone, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms corded with muscle and marked with scars. He held a crystal tumbler of amber liquid, and his hair was slightly disheveled, like he'd been running his hands through it. I'm not used to this. Maya gestured vaguely at the opulence around them. No, you're used to struggling. He moved into the room, and Maya found herself backing up until her spine hit the bookshelf. He noticed, and something predatory flickered in his expression. You're afraid of me again. I thought we were past that. We're not past anything. You bought me. I bought your debts. There's a difference. He took a sip of his drink, eyes never leaving hers. Though I admit the line is blurry. Why am I really here, Ji-hoon? Because my father won't let you go. No. The real reason. He set his glass down on a side table and suddenly he was moving toward her, each step deliberate, giving her time to flee. She couldn't. He stopped when they were close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, could smell whiskey and something darker underneath. Rage, maybe. Or hunger. You want the truth? His voice dropped to gravel. My father is playing a game I don't understand. You're a piece on a board I can't see, and I hate not knowing the rules. His hand came up and Maya's breath hitched, but he only reached past her to pull a book from the shelf. His arm brushed her shoulder and electricity arced between them. But every time I see you with him, I feel something I haven't felt in years. What? He looked at the book in his hand, leather-bound Korean poetry, and something vulnerable cracked through his armor. Hope. Like maybe there's still something in this family worth saving. He handed her the book and their fingers touched. Neither pulled away. Marcus used to read from this. He was the only one of us who still believed in beauty. Maya's throat tightened. He talked about you. Not by name, but he said he had a brother who carried the weight of the world because no one else could. Ji-hoon's jaw clenched. He left us. Chose death over family. He chose freedom over prison. There's a difference. Is there? His thumb stroked across her knuckles, and the touch was so gentle it hurt. Because right now, you're in a prison, Maya. A beautiful one, but still a cage. And I'm the warden. He leaned closer, and she could see gold flecks in his dark eyes, could feel his breath against her cheek. But I wonder who's really trapped you or me. Watching you on these monitors, unable to stop thinking about the way you stood between my father and danger without hesitation. Ji-hoon. I shouldn't want you. You're everything I can't afford to want. But God help me I do. His hand cupped her face, rough palm against soft skin, and Maya's eyes fluttered closed. Tell me to stop. Tell me this is wrong. It was wrong. Completely, utterly wrong. But when she opened her eyes, she said, I'm not afraid of you. His control shattered. He kissed her like drowning, like salvation, like violence wrapped in silk. His mouth claimed hers with bruising intensity, and Maya met him with equal ferocity, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. He groaned against her lips, backing her harder against the bookshelf, and the poetry book tumbled to the floor, forgotten. Then he wrenched himself away, breathing hard, eyes wild. This is a mistake. Then why did you kiss me? Because I'm damned either way. He picked up his abandoned drink, drained it in one swallow. Go to bed, Maya. Before I do something we'll both regret. She went, but sleep was impossible. She lay in the dark, fingers touching her swollen lips, and wondered if Marcus had warned his brother about her, if that's why Ji-hoon fought his attraction with such desperation. Across the estate, in a room Maya had never seen, Director Park sat in front of a bank of monitors. He watched his son pace the library like a caged animal, watched the woman toss in her bed, unable to rest. He smiled, and the dementia vanished completely from his eyes. Found you, he whispered to the image of Maya's pendant, frozen on screen. Now let's see if you survive what comes next. The story continues with twists darker than night and a love forged in fire. But I'll save the rest for next time. If you want to know what happens when Maya discovers the truth, when Ji-hoon's father reveals his true game, and when the choice between love and survival becomes impossible to make, subscribe to Alina Korean Stories and turn on notifications. Drop a comment with your theories about what happens next. Until then, remember, some cages are made of gold, and some are made of the promises we make when the world gives us no good options.